Somehow, in connection with that quiet, poetical afternoon of fastidious shopping, I recalled the hotel or inn with the seductive name of the Enchanted Hunters, which Charlotte had happened to mention shortly before my liberation. With the help of a guidebook, I located it in the secluded town of Bryceland, a 4-hour drive from Low's camp. I could have telephoned, but fearing my voice might go out of control and lapse into coy croaks of broken English, I decided to send a wire ordering a room with twin beds for the next night. What a comic, clumsy, wavering Prince Charming I was. How some of my readers will laugh at me when I tell them the trouble I had with the wording of my telegram. What should I put? Humbert and daughter? Hamburg and small daughter? Homburg and immature girl? Homburg and child? The droll mistake, the G at the end, which eventually came through, may have been a telepathic echo of these hesitations of mine. And then, in the velvet of a summer night, my broodings over the filter I had with me. Oh, miserly Hamburg! Was he not a very enchanted hunter as he deliberated with himself over his box full of magic ammunition? To rout the monster of insomnia, should he try himself one of those amethyst capsules? There were 40 of them all told, 40 nights with a frail little sleeper at my throbbing side. Could I rob myself of one such night in order to sleep? Certainly not. Much too precious was each tiny plum, each microscopic planetarium with its live stardust. Oh, let me be mawkish for the nonce. I'm so tired of being cynical. This daily headache in the opaque air of this tomb jail is disturbing, but I must persevere. Have written more than 100 pages and not got anywhere yet. My calendar's getting confused. That must have been around August 15th, 1947. Oh, I don't think I can go on. Heart, head, everything. Lolita, 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 Lolita. Repeat until the page is full, printer. Still in Parkington. Finally, I did achieve an hour's slumber, from which I was aroused by gratuitous and horribly exhausting congress with a small hairy hermaphrodite, a total stranger. By then it was 6 a.m, and it suddenly occurred to me it might be a good thing to arrive at the camp earlier than I'd said. From Parkington I still had 100 miles to go, and there would be more than that to the hazy hills and Bryceland. If I'd said I'd come for Dolly in the afternoon, it was only because my fancy insisted on merciful night falling as soon as possible upon my impatience. But now I foresaw all kinds of misunderstandings and was all a-jitter lest delay might give her the opportunity of some idle telephone call to Ramsdale. However, when at 9:30 a.m. I attempted to start, I was confronted by a dead battery, and noon was nigh when at last I left Parkington. I reached my destination around 2:30, parked my car in a pine grove where a green-shirted, red-headed, impish lad stood throwing horseshoes in sullen solitude, was laconically directed by him to an office in a stucco cottage, in a dying state had to endure for several minutes the inquisitive commiseration of the camp mistress, a sluttish, worn-out female with rusty hair. Dolly, she said, was all packed and ready to go. She knew her mother was sick, but not critically. Would Mr. Mr. Humbert, care to meet the camp counsellors, or look at the cabins where the girls live, each dedicated to a Disney creature, or visit the lodge, or should Charlie be sent over to fetch her? The girls were just finishing fixing the dining room for a dance, and perhaps afterwards she would say to somebody or other, "The poor guy looked like his own ghost." Let me retain for a moment that scene in all its trivial and fateful detail. Hag Holmes writing out a receipt, scratching her head, pulling a drawer out of her desk, pouring change into my impatient palm, then neatly spreading a banknote over it with a bright "and 5. Photographs of girl children, some gaudy moth or butterfly, still alive, safely pinned to the wall, nature study, the framed diploma of the camp's dietitian, my trembling hands, a card produced by Efficient Holmes with a report of Dolly Hayes's behaviour for July, fair to good, keen on swimming and boating, a sound of trees and birds and my pounding heart, I was standing with my back to the open door, and then I felt the blood rush to my head as I heard her respiration and voice behind me. She arrived, dragging and bumping her heavy suitcase. "Hi," she said, and stood still, looking at me with sly, glad eyes, her soft lips parted in a slightly foolish but wonderfully endearing smile. She was thinner and taller, and for a second it seemed to me her face was less pretty than the mental imprint I had cherished for more than a month. Her cheeks looked hollowed, and too much lentigo camouflaged her rosy rustic features. And that first impression, a very narrow human interval between two tiger heartbeats, carried the clear implication that all Widower Humbert had to do, wanted to do, or would do, was to give this wan-looking, though sun-coloured little orphan aux yeux battus. And even those plumbaceous umbri under her eyes bore freckles. A sound education, a healthy and happy girlhood, a clean home, nice girlfriends of her age, among whom, if the fates deigned to repay me, I might find perhaps a pretty little Magdalene for Herr Dr. Humbert alone. But in a wink, as the Germans say, the angelic line of conduct was erased, and I overtook my prey. Time moves ahead of our fancies, and she was my Lolita again. In fact, more of my Lolita than ever.